So when it comes to mobile forensics, securing the device and picking your acquisition method, well, that's just the start. You might pull a perfect bit-for-bit image of a phone's data, but as you're about to see, actually getting to the evidence inside, that's a whole other battle.
Okay, so let's say you've done everything by the book. You have a forensically sound image of the device right in front of you. So what's the problem? Why is the evidence we need so often just completely out of reach?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but it has huge implications. See, modern phones aren't just passive little boxes that hold data. No, they are digital fortresses, and they have been actively and very carefully engineered to protect user data from any kind of intrusion. And yeah, that absolutely includes us.
So in this explainer, we're going to tour this digital fortress. We'll look at why the technology is a constantly moving target. We'll run up against the unbreakable walls of encryption. We'll meet the guards at the gate. We'll look for data that isn't even on the device. And finally, we'll talk about all the external factors that can make an investigation even trickier.
All right, let's dive in. Our first major hurdle isn't so much a wall as it is a blueprint that's being redrawn almost every single day.
The pace of mobile tech is just relentless. It forces forensic tools into a constant game of catch-up. I mean, think about it. You've got constant OS updates from Android and iOS, apps changing every week, new security patches rolling out all the time. It means an exploit that worked beautifully last Tuesday could be totally useless today.
And this quote right here just nails it. Every single update can patch a hole we used to use, change how data is stored, or add a brand new security feature we've never seen before. It really does make mobile forensics a never-ending battle.
Okay, so beyond that shifting landscape, now we're facing the fortress's biggest, baddest defense, the inner vault of encryption.
What we're dealing with today is something called file-based encryption, or FBE. Now, instead of one giant lock on the whole drive, FBE is way more sophisticated. It's like every single file has its own personal lock and its own unique key.
This chart really shows the evolution. Older systems use full disk encryption, FDE, which was basically an all-or-nothing deal. But modern file-based encryption is so much smarter. It lets the phone do essential things, like take a phone call, even when it's locked, because it only decrypts the specific files it needs for that task, leaving all your personal data safely locked up.
And this is where things get incredibly complex. Systems like Apple's iOS bake the encryption right into the hardware itself. They create this chain of keys that's tied to the phone's unique processor ID and the user's passcode. What that means is, without the passcode, even if you have a perfect physical copy of the storage chip, it's just a brick of unreadable encrypted garbage.
So if we can't just brute force the encryption on the data itself, what's the next move? Well, we have to try to get past the guards at the gate, the screen lock.
We all know these. They're the barriers we use every day. Pins, passwords, our fingerprints, our faces. But for an investigator, they're the device's first active line of defense. And modern phones are built to resist brute force attacks, adding time delays or even wiping themselves after too many wrong guesses.
Now, the state of the device when it's seized is absolutely crucial. If you find a device before first unlock, or BFU, like after it's been restarted, it's on maximum lockdown. Biometrics won't work and most data is sealed away. But if it's in an after first unlock, or AFU state, its main encryption keys are actually loaded into memory. This gives investigators a critical, but often very short window of opportunity.
The challenge gets even tougher when you realize that today, the most critical piece of evidence might not even be on the device in your hands.
A lot of the apps we use every day add their own layers of security on top of the phones. Messaging apps like Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram use what's called end-to-end encryption. That means even if you get full access to the phone's file system, the message database itself is often another locked box, completely unreadable. And this quote about Signal really drives the point home. Apps like this are built for privacy from the ground up. They encrypt their own data, which creates a massive hurdle. A lot of the time, an investigator might only get metadata, who talked to who and when, but the actual content of that conversation is just gone.
And this points to a fundamental shift in how we use our phones. A lot of the time, the device is just a window to data that lives somewhere else. The most important evidence, your photos, your message backups, your documents, is often synced to the cloud, like iCloud or Google Drive. So complete extraction of the physical phone might still only give you a piece of the puzzle.
And finally, as if all of that wasn't enough, investigators have to deal with a whole range of external threats that can stop data recovery in its tracks. These factors create a really complex environment.
You have volatile data in RAM that just vanishes if the phone loses power. There's the constant threat of a remote wipe command being sent over the network. You have so much different hardware out there that there's no single magic tool that works on everything. And of course, underpinning all of it, every action has to stay within the strict boundaries of the law.
Let's make this real with a quick scenario. An investigator gets a physical image from a locked, fully updated iPhone in a fraud case. But because of that hardware encryption we talked about, the data is almost entirely scrambled nonsense. They've hit a brick wall. This forces them to pivot, to step back and realize, hey, wait a minute, the crucial evidence, the banking records, probably aren't even on this phone. They're in the iCloud backup.
And this really gets to the heart of modern forensics. Knowing what you can't do is just as important as knowing what you can. Understanding these roadblocks from the very beginning lets investigators set realistic goals, manage their time and resources, and build the right strategy, which might end up focusing on data far beyond the physical device.
So all of this raises a pretty big question, right? If modern phones are these nearly impenetrable fortresses, protected by shifting defenses, unbreakable encryption, and legal barriers, how does anyone ever succeed? What keys could possibly open these gates?
Well, we're going to explore that exact question in our next explainer. We're going to open up the toolkit and look at the specialized software and advanced techniques that are designed specifically to overcome these very challenges. I'll see you then.